pretty much just a briefing. It's on the waste management settlement, and a decision that we'll make as a council, but it will not be tonight, even in our normal course of things. It'll be after the first of the year, but they're just going to give us some options, tell us about the settlement, give us some options on what we could do with the money, and we'll discuss it next year as Council President Corman schedules it. But so it's more of just a briefing this evening. Greg, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Committee of the Whole. I'm Greg Zimmerman, Renton's Public Works Administrator. And as you'll recall, Puget Sound area customers of waste management, including Renton customers, experienced a solid waste collection labor strike from July 25th to August 2nd earlier this year. During the strike, there was limited garbage collection and there was no yard waste or recycling collection. The City Council authorized the mayor to negotiate a settlement with Waste Management regarding penalty for the strike and the impacts of the strike. The council also referred selection of a preferred option for distribution of the settlement to the Committee of the Whole. So we're here today to discuss some options with you. Solid Waste Coordinator Linda Knight will provide for your consideration a brief presentation outlining 3 options for the disposition of the strike settlement funding. And so, Linda, at this time, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Greg. Good evening, Mr. President and members of the Committee of the Whole. Obviously, my name is Linda Knight. I'm the Solid Waste Coordinator for the city, and tonight I'm here to talk about the solid waste strike this past summer, staff mitigation efforts, and options for settlement funds. Feel free to ask me questions as we go along, or you can hold them till the end, your choice. First, I want to provide a brief background of the strike, including Waste Management's communication with cities, staff's response to waste management, and the city's communication with our solid waste customers. On Wednesday, July 25th, Teamsters Local 117, representing the recycling and yard waste drivers, went on strike. The walkout occurred mid-morning, disrupting much of the recycling and yard and food waste collection in Renton. Teamsters Local 174, representing the garbage drivers, decided to honor the strike, which resulted in no collections of garbage after about 10 a.m. All of the trucks were called back to the yard. Waste Management then activated its contingency plan, which prioritized collection for the duration of the strike. Renton staff worked closely with Waste Management operations in the initial days of the strike to maintain communications so that customer messaging was consistent across all communications platforms. As the strike continued, communication with the operations manager was limited, and all communications were filtered through the Waste Management Public Sector Office. Efforts here included working to respond to direct calls and emails from customers, and coordination with our communications department to post updates on our website and provide relevant press releases. To keep a pulse on what was happening elsewhere, staff met with other impacted cities and the county to work towards solutions for our collective customers. Regional communications from King County Executive Constantine, Mayor Law, and others urged Waste Management to work towards a solution to the strike and reminded them of their contractual obligations to the cities to collect waste and recyclables that had accumulated. The strike officially ended with a vote by Local 117 on Thursday, August 2nd. That was more than a week after the strike had occurred. Although we would still experience service disruption for many of our customers through the following week as Waste Management worked to get all Puget Sound customers serviced. So during the strike, some limited services were provided in Renton. Single-family residential customers all received garbage collection during the strike due to preventative actions of staff who collaborated with Waste Management to make certain our every other week service was not interrupted. We were the only city in King County that received single-family residential garbage collection. Weekly yard and food waste collections and every other week recycling collections were suspended during the period of the strike. For our multifamily customers, these are the customers with primarily front load and roll-off services, received no garbage service. Recycling collection was also suspended for all customers in this class for the duration of the strike. A limited number of special multifamily housing accounts continue to receive garbage collection only due to the nature of their site or their business, this being defined as nursing home facilities and other specialty housing. Our commercial customers, most of these customers in that sector, most of these customers did not receive garbage service during the strike, with the exception of the critical accounts identified as hospitals and some restaurants and food service establishments. No recycling was serviced during the strike. Most of these customers do not currently subscribe to yard and food waste services, but those who do also had that service suspended. The city's contract with Waste Management outlines performance fees that the city may assess for specific service delivery issues. The city negotiation team used the performance fees as a starting point for negotiating a settlement with Waste Management. During the November 19th, 2012 council meeting, the council authorized the mayor to negotiate a settlement with Waste Management and referred the selection of an option for distribution of the settlement to the committee of the whole. It's kind of a redundancy of what Greg said. Greg Zimmerman led the negotiation team with Waste Management staff Mary Evans. Both Lees, Hornsby, and I provided support to the process. We also kept in communication with other cities and their strike negotiations. Finally, after many meetings, we came to an agreed settlement amount of $237,000. The settlement is stated as a lump sum amount that roughly represents $10 per cart and $50 per dumpster, similar to the settlements of most other cities. This settlement will be deducted from Waste Management's monthly compensation in January 2013. Now that the city has an agreed upon settlement, it's time to talk about how to use those funds for the benefit of the customer. Staff has developed 3 options for your consideration. Option 1, curbside cleanup event. Option 1 is a one-time only curbside cleanup event, which would be similar to what we've provided in the past. Option 2 is to provide customers a credit. This option provides direct credit to each of our customers. The option would provide a $10 credit for carts and a $50 credit for dumpster. And option 3 is to buy down the future rate increase. This option would use the settlement amount to essentially would park the money and then use it to offset any future rate increase. This slide just outlines several other cities in our area, some that bill the customer, some that don't bill the customer. Waste Management bills directly. But it shows the other settlements and what they're, well, it shows actually what they're planning to do with their settlements. And you can see in each we have Auburn, Federal Way, Kirkland, Redmond, and Seattle all have decided through council decision to provide their customers with a direct credit. The residential customers in each of these scenarios will receive a $10 credit, while the commercial and multifamily customers will receive a $50 credit. The preferred option that we're presenting tonight is commercial customer credit and a single-family curbside cleanup event. It's kind of combines 2 of the options that we presented earlier. This option would provide a one-time only curbside clean event to single-family customers served only in the Waste Management service area. Those were the customers who were impacted by the strike, and provides for a customer credit of $10 per cart and $50 per dumpster for commercial and multifamily customers. The estimated cost of this option is $266,000. And while the estimated cost of this option exceeds the settlement by approximately $29,000, we've looked at our solid waste fund balance to see whether it can sustain this additional cost, and it can without negatively impacting the overall fund or customer rates. And that concludes my presentation. Questions?
I just want to make sure we're clear. So we've gone from curbside cleanup being a single option and customer rebates being a single option to a combined option of those 2 options into one.
That is the administration's preferred option.
Combining those two systems?
Combining the two essentially takes a portion of the funds and applies it to a one-time only curbside cleanup event for our single-family customers. So they wouldn't receive the direct credit back on their regular monthly bill. But it does take into consideration that if you provide that event for single-family customers only, you're still not addressing that other part of the equation, which was the commercial and multifamily, who also suffered some inconvenience during the strike, and so it provides the credit back directly to that customer class. $10 per cart, $50 per dumpster, similar to what other cities have offered their customers.
Okay, I've confused myself. Terry?
Well, so the last time we had a curbside was a couple years ago?
2009 was the last curbside garbage cleanup event.
Yeah, and I recall seeing nothing in my neighborhood. I'm just wondering how well it did across the city.
The curbside cleanup event, going back to 2009, we started in 2005 and carried them through to 2009. We've never had 100% participation in that event. It's difficult. We've estimated, Waste Management's estimated between 40% to 60% of households, depending on the year.
I guess personally, I would be more attuned to just giving the money back to the customers rather than having the curbside event, because to me that's there's only a portion of the people that are actually going to benefit from it. So that's my thought.
Mr. Chair?
Tom?
Well, I have concerns over the curbside thing, because what you have is we're going to offer a curbside pickup to a portion of the majority portion of our citizens, but then you got the ones that have been annexed lately, and they're an allied. So if I'm across the street from somebody that's in allied, they're going to be saying, well, how come he gets it and I don't get it? I don't think it's, I understand if you're looking at the monetary, it's fair, but I think it's unfair to the other part of the city for us to give curbside pickup without giving it to the whole city. I personally would prefer to keep the money and reduce rates in the future. That would be my preferred option, because I don't know, by the time you send $10, there's a tremendous cost to send out these $10 checks, and people, the easier way is to give them that as a credit on their bill.
How would you handle the $10? Would it be a credit on the bill?
The $10 or the $50 would be a credit on the customer's bill.
Okay. So, but I mean, the curbside thing to me is out.
It is to me too.
And I just...
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Randy?
Yeah, and I'm fine either way on the curbside or not. I think if we are going to credit it, though, we ought to try and credit it this year instead of using it to offset rate increases. I understand that, but the only thing is there will be people that will point out that they'll have a job move or something and won't be here. They had the inconvenience and then they wouldn't get the benefit. And I don't really want to be a standout city where the others have all returned it as a credit and it looked like we hoarded the money or something like that.
Marcy?
Yes. Well, I guess I'm kind of surprised. I've had so many people ask me if we're ever going to do the curbside in the last couple of years. And, somebody just asked me last week if we would ever do it again. And because we haven't done it for going on 4 years, I think there's a pent-up demand for it. I don't have a problem. The people that annexed in knew what they were getting when they came in, and they got their garbage picked up when Waste Management customers didn't, so they weren't inconvenienced. But I like that idea.
Make sure that everybody has an opportunity. Ed, did you want to?
I was just going to echo what Councilmember Palmer said.
Yeah, and Randy came in a tad bit late. We're not making a decision on it tonight. I think for this is kind of what I anticipated. There's a reason behind every option why it would be a good idea, and I'm just kind of thinking it's probably worth waiting until next year to actually make the decision and kind of think it through. Because I'm with Marcy. I've heard a lot of people talk about the clean sweep or whatever it is, which is a much better value than $10 for those who take advantage of it. I mean, you can't get to the dump for $10. The rate reduction thing, I think that, while Don, I appreciate it, I think Randy raises the good point about get the benefit back to the people that were immediately impacted. And I think we'd have a lot of outcry for the people who didn't get their $10, that didn't want to participate in clean sweep and are wondering why they didn't get their $10 back. So I think it's as small amount as this appears to be, I think it's one of our more controversial things, which is kind of why I was just hoping to get a presentation and a feeling where we're at. Don? Go ahead.
Well, my understanding is that people aren't going to get their $10 back if we do the curbside.
Correct. Correct?
So,
Right.
The preferred option would not refund or credit back the single-family residential customers. It would provide the curbside cleanup event, and it would rebate the $10 per cart and the $50 per dumpster to the multifamily and commercial sector, because they're not participating in the curbside event.
I mean, I'm looking at the whole city. I'm sorry, and I understand that they should know when they got annexed that they were going to have Allied, and this contract is with Waste Management. But when people got annexed, majority of them didn't even know they were going to get annexed. And even if they knew, they didn't sit down and say, oh, gee whiz, I'm going to have Allied, and then I'm not going to have Waste Management. They didn't. The people who are our citizens now that are in the Allied portion had no idea what it was going to do to their garbage. You know, that's complicated. So I'm not sold on holding it. I mean, to me, the option is give everybody back their $10, and
if I may, I have a feeling that that's probably where I'm going to end up, just because it's the least controversial and you get your credit for those who missed their service and end of story, and you don't have to really defend that decision. But I do know that the clean sweep has been very popular, and it creates a very good dynamic value for those that want to participate in it. But I really wasn't, when I was hearing this coming up, I don't know where I'm at on it.
Can I
To be honest.
ask
Terry, please.
Timing, have the other cities already given their refunds? And where are we in the...
A good question. I was going off of newspaper reports of the settlement, so I'm not quite certain of whether the credits have actually been rebated to the customers. I think
Not late.
I think a couple of cities actually have. Their provision was for their December bill. Auburn, I think, was the city that was going to rebate by December. Seattle, I don't know. I'm a customer in Seattle, and I haven't seen anything yet, but we get our bills every other month, so it could show up. I'm also one of those customers that doesn't look very carefully at my bill, so I wouldn't necessarily see it, but it was very clear that all of them had council action for that decision. And in Redmond, it is a rebate directly from Waste Management, because the city does not bill in Redmond. Waste Management bills the customer.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I'm kicking it over to Council President Randy Corman's term, and he will schedule a decision point on it, and I guess we can ask friends and family and give it a little more thought. But I think with that,
Mr. Chair, before you kick it over to Council President Corman, can we have the information on what the other cities have done when we're getting ready to make this decision next year? I think that would just be something that'd be very helpful to have, so we know where we are in the spectrum of other cities that have to deal with this.
Which other cities would you like to hear about? I mean, I've provided 5 cities, and those were council actions.
Well, you said that you weren't sure.
I just didn't know the date when the credit was actually going to go to the customer.
Right, can you go ahead and put this, we're gone for another 3 weeks here now. So
And there may be more settlements between now and then, because the Waste Management's working with all of their
flesh
cities.
that out a little bit for us, so we have that for decision making.
Yeah,
Right.
I certainly.
Excellent.
We'll do that.
Excellent. Okay, with that, Committee of the Whole is, I think, officially recessed to the Bravo Awards, beginning at 6:30. in the council conferencing area, just in case it's not an actual committee of the whole meeting over there or anything, but in case there's any open meeting issues, we'll all be there, and then we'll be back at 7 for the council meeting. Thank you.
Perfect.